seeds of bhakti planted in the heart. So in other words, it's the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna which nourish the seed of bhakti. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is described that we have a seed of bhakti planted by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. There is a controversy. What is that seed? Is it mantra? Is it diksha? Is it your Siddha Pranali Swarup? Or whatever. So there's various interpretations of what that means. Or is it just faith? So anyway, bhakti begins at a certain point, and then it has to be nourished. So it is the water that nourishes the seed of bhakti. So of course the water in one sense consists of the different activities of bhakti, like hearing and chanting, remembering. That's the normal interpretation. Here we have the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the water which nourishes the plant. And the jivas in the universe are described as sitting in the middle of a desert, which is all dried up because of lust and other material desires. So lust is like heat, and we find that the earth dries up because of heat, and then the seed cannot sprout. Even if there is a seed, it won't sprout. So he expresses here that simply not even the rain, but just the approach of the cloud itself brings about some sort of activity in these seeds, so they become enlivened, just even but not by the rain itself, but by the approach of the clouds of mercy itself. So even without the actual rain of mercy, just by the approach of Lord Chaitanya's mercy, there is some activity going on in terms of bhakti. Okay? And then he praised himself for that mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is like a dried up tree in the desert. So, this is an invocation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mercy, and of course then to Krishna and his mercy, to practice bhakti and develop it. So, this way, if we have water, the seeds develop. So in the same way, if we have mercy, we can also develop bhakti. Something like that. Ultimately coming from Krishna. So, as we see, there are various unpredictable problems in weather in the material world. Sometimes you get rain, sometimes you don't get rain, and they may predict rain, but it doesn't come. And when you don't predict it, it does come, and maybe it comes too much or whatever. So in the material world, rain is unpredictable, and therefore crops are also unpredictable. So, on the other hand, there is a process by which the mercy of the Lord can be invoked, so we don't have to take chances. So to begin the actual work, Vishnu Chakrabarti begins with the idea of rasa, and he explains that the Lord is rasa. We see that the rain cloud itself is described as mercy. Ultimately, this comes from Krishna. So the mercy also, another form of the mercy is rasa. Rasa literally means taste, or something which is very sweet. So the idea of rasa, of course, is developed by Rupa Goswami in Nectar Devotion and other works. However, it's not a concoction, because we do have statements in Shruti. So that is why in this work, even in spite of the fact that most of it is quotes from Bhagavatam, he does quote Shruti also, to show that there's some authority for understanding the Lord as rasa. So there's a famous section of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which talks about the different Purushas, from the Annamaya Purusha to the Anandamaya Purusha. And then it talks about Anandamaya Purusha being rasa, rasa vaisaha. So that's stated here. The Lord is rasa. He is the embodiment of all rasa. And attaining that rasa, the jiva becomes blissful. So the ananda of the jiva is dependent upon realizing rasa in the Lord. So the Lord is the source of all ananda, or bliss, but that ananda actually comes from the Lord's rasa. So of course that's the same conclusion reached in Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. It is the Bhakti Rasa which creates bliss, and the Bhakti Rasa is emanating from the Supreme Lord. So the Lord is rasa, so this is what creates joy for the jiva. Now what is rasa? We have a little bit of a misunderstanding of what is rasa. It actually has components. Just like we have halava. So halava is a result of something else. It is a result of what? Suji and sugar and ghee and water, then maybe some cardamom seeds,
saffron,
and saffron, and nuts, maybe almonds, badam, etc. So it's a combination. The final result, the taste we get from the final result is from ingredients or samagri. So rasa also is composed of ingredients. So these are explained in the Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. These, of course, are also in common with material rasa. We have poets or authorities on rasa in the material world, that is for depicting in poetry and drama emotions. Same analysis. We have 5 elements here: vibhava, sthayi bhava, anubhava, satvika bhava, and the vichari bhavas. Of which the most important is the second one here, that is the sthayi bhava. That is the main element of love, the taste of that love. So we have Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. These are the main ones. Then we have some secondary ones also, but the main ones are these 5. In themselves, they are not rasa. They're just a relationship with the Lord, an emotional relationship, that's all. They become rasa. The sthayi bhava becomes rasa when the other elements, the other 4 elements, mix with it. So we have vibhava, which means prior ingredients, or basic ingredients. You cannot have the sthayi bhava unless you have the vibhava. So the vibhava means you have to have a person experiencing, and you have to have the object of love, Krishna in our case. And then we have the devotee and we have Krishna. So we have 2 persons. Without that, there's no sthayi bhava. So we have to have persons. And of course, according to the person, we're going to develop different, we have different sthayi bhavas also. But as well as the person and the object, we also have qualities and other elements in the object of love which stimulate that love, such as Krishna's peacock feather, or the sound of his flute, or the color of his body, or his footprints, or his garland, or whatever. So these are called the udipanas, stimulants. So this is all part of vibhava. So we have to have persons experiencing, we have the Supreme Lord, and then we have the qualities, forms, and other elements of the Supreme Lord which stimulate that love. It could be sound, it could be vision, it could be anything, words, or whatever. And that stimulates the love, the sthayi bhava. So this is called vibhava. So technically we have asraya, vishaya. Asraya is the devotee, vishaya is Krishna. And udipana is the elements in Krishna which stimulate that love. That's called vibhava. So that is intimately related with the sthayi bhava. We cannot have the sthayi bhava without the vibhavas. And Then we have these other bhavas, anubhavas, sattvika bhavas, and devachari bhavas. Anubhavas are, you can say, symptoms. Anu means afterwards. So as a result of the relationship and the stimulus, then we may get anubhavas, which means actions which express the love. So for instance, Mother Yasoda loves Krishna, so she does certain actions to express her love, such as dressing Krishna, decorating his body with designs, or cooking for him. So these are called anubhavas. The cowherd boys, on the other hand, have different anubhavas with Krishna. One of their anubhavas is playing with Krishna. Play ball, throwing ball, wrestling with Krishna. That's an anubhava, an expression of their love. Herding the cows or the calves, this is anubhava. Then we have sattvika bhavas. In that relationship, and due to the stimulus sometimes, and due to the pastime, there's an intensity of emotion which is uncontrolled, and it produces certain symptoms in the body, such as crying, shivering, fainting, hair standing on end, etc. So these are called sattvika bhavas. For instance, when Mother Yasoda hears that Krishna is playing on Putana's lap, then she faints or something like that. So that it's not she consciously faints as an expression of her love, but out of her love she just faints. So that's a sattvika bhava. Or in separation from Krishna, the gopis cry, they weep. There's a sattvika bhava. Or they tremble, or they change color, whatever. These are all sattvika bhavas. Due to changes in their bodies, due to the emotions, then these symptoms manifest. Vyabhachari bhavas, there's 33 vyabhachari bhavas. These are secondary emotions. Vyabhachari means disturbing. Many of them go against the main bhava, that is the love relationship, such as worry, fright, sudden fright, whatever like this. So there's 33 different symptoms, shame, all these different things. They kind of impede the main bhava sometimes. So they're called vyabhachari bhavas, 33 minor emotions. They will appear and they'll suddenly disappear. So they don't continue for any long time. Sthayi bhava means it's permanent. It continues in all cases. Based on the sthayi bhava, then you get the vyabhachari bhavas appearing and disappearing like this, and the sattvika bhavas appearing and disappearing. So these elements, when they mix together, this creates rasa. In other words, it's not just the sthayi bhava, but there's taste within that due to the elements, the anubhavas, the actions, or the vyabhachari bhavas, the worry or the anger or whatever mixed up in that. The sattvika bhavas manifesting as tears. All that coming together produces rasa. So out of that we get the different rasas. We get shanta rasa, dasya rasa, etc. But there's also shanta, dasya, sthayi bhava. And when it mixes with the other elements, it becomes those rasas. So that is, Krishna is the source of rasa, and Krishna expresses all these rasas also. And so he also has the elements in him. And of course in Nectar Devotion there it says, Akila Rasa Mritamurti. Krishna is the personification of all rasas, primary and secondary. 5 primary ones, and we have the secondary ones also. So it's like colors coming together, mixing in certain ways. Just as we have basically, I think, 3 colors. If you look in the temple room, we have 3 different colored lights only. I think it's a blue one, a green one, and a red one. But they produce more colors because of the variation in their things. So you get orange, and you get yellow, and you get purple, etc., and various grades of that also. So similarly, with rasa, you get different ingredients in different amounts, and you get all sorts of different tastes and variety. And this produces a great variegatedness in the spiritual world. due to the variations of rasas, etc. So just like colors can be, you can do so many things with colors. This with colors, 3 colors, you can do so many things. Yeah? You get so many shades and so many patterns, etc. Yeah? So when you get rasa, you have action through spiritual time. We have pastimes, etc. And then the rasa manifests in different ways. So it's always very variegated. So Vishnu Chakravarti, he quotes here one verse about rasa at the very beginning. This is a famous verse in the 10th canto, describing Krishna appearing in the arena of Kamsa. When he went to Mathura with Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men and the cowherd boys, and he left the gopis and the women in Vrindavan. He came to Mathura, and then he killed the elephant, etc. And then he entered into the arena of Kamsa. So this verse describes different people seeing Krishna when he came into the arena. So we have the wrestlers, the mullas. They saw Krishna as Ashani, which means thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is considered to be very hard. It is indestructible. So though Krishna is also described as Komala, his body is so soft that if a leaf touches him, he gets bruised. And the gopis worry that when he's walking in the forest, that his feet will get pricked by the grass and get injured. But the wrestlers do not see Krishna in that way. They found him harder than a thunderbolt for some reason. And similarly, we have the other people. So we have the wrestlers like this, and they saw him as thunderbolt because, according to their relationship, then Krishna is different. So this is one rasa called Virya rasa, where there is combating spirits. And the combating spirit, Krishna appears very, very tough. The men of Mathura saw him as the best of males. In other words, they were very surprised by his prowess, etc., when he came into the arena. So this is what we call Adbhuta rasa. This is also a secondary rasa. Wonder, amazement. They were astonished. The women saw him as Cupid. So the women in Mathura, they fell in love with him when they saw him. So this is Madhurya rasa, conjugal love. The cowherd boys saw him as a friend, and they were laughing with him. In other words, the cowherd boys in Vrindavan were his friends, and in spite of many dangers, like he would go to the forest and then he would kill Agasura or Inakasura or all these other demons. So cowherd boys understood that nothing could happen to Krishna. So they were not worried when he came into Kamsa's arena and there's huge wrestlers there, etc. So they were laughing, joking with him. It's called Hasya Rasa. And of course, Sakya Rasa was there too. The impious rulers, that's the friends of Kamsa, saw him as Shasta, that is, punisher, chastiser. In other words, they saw Krishna in a very angry mood, just as he appeared to the enemy in Kurukshetra as a very angry person. So when he came into that arena of Kamsa, then Kamsa's friends saw him as someone who was going to punish them for their evil deeds. That's Raudra Rasa, anger. Vasudeva and Devaki were there also, sitting in the audience, and Nanda Maharaj was also there. Yasoda was not there, she was in Vrindavan. So, and all the elder persons also, similar age to Vasudeva and Devaki, when they saw Krishna, they saw him as their son. So they saw him as Vatsalya Rasa, that he was unprotected. And his huge wrestlers were there, they were going to crush Krishna. So they saw him with karuna, compassion. How could Krishna fight with these huge wrestlers? He is helpless. This is a very unjust wrestling match. So that's how they felt. So this is karuna rasa. So karuna and vatsalya rasa is expressed by elders. Kamsa saw Krishna as death personified. That's bhayanaka rasa, fear. Unintelligent persons, like the priests of Kamsa, saw him as a material body, and they criticized him because he came into the arena and he had just killed the elephant, and he had the elephant tusked on him, and there was blood on his body. So this is an impure person with blood on his body coming into this arena of Kamsa. He's a material person who doesn't have any manners, doesn't know what cleanliness is. So they saw him with disgust. That's vibhatsa rasa. The yogis saw him as tattva, absolute truth, shanta rasa. And the Vrishnis saw him as their worshipful deity, so that was dasya rasa. So one person, Krishna, was seen by various people in various rasas. So this illustrates that simultaneously Krishna can display 12 rasas. He also did this with when he was lifting Govardhan Hill, and all the people of Raja experienced different rasas with him simultaneously. So by his powers, he can simultaneously manifest all rasas, even if they're contradictory. So different rasas are contrary. Madhurya rasa and vatsalya rasa never exist together in one person. It's difficult to do that. That is very, very difficult, but they're contrary. So, but in Krishna, that all exists, and everyone sees it differently. So, after establishing that Krishna is rasa and he's the actual goal of our worship, then Vishnu Chakravarti describes the nature of bhakti in general. Just as in nectar devotion, Rupa Goswami begins with the general definition called samanya bhakti in the first section, and he gives 6 qualities of bhakti. So, in this first section, called the first shower, he begins to describe bhakti. So, his intention here is to show that bhakti is completely independent of everything else, because it's not material. Everything in the material world is dependent on something else. But bhakti is not part of the material world. So when it appears in a person, it is something very special. It's not produced by material nature, it's not produced by sattva guna, it's not produced by material actions at all. Where does it come from? It must have come from the spiritual world. It must come from Krishna. Directly. So, it is completely different from anything else in the material world, even though it appears in the material world. So it is completely independent. So it appears by the will of Krishna himself. Only with his consent, bhakti manifests ultimately. So that's the ultimate cause of bhakti. So just as avatars, how do they appear? Of course, the devatas will pray, please come because the demons are afflicting us, and the Lord appears. But ultimately, it's not just the request. It is because the Lord desires to come. That's why. And he may have other purposes to fulfill, not just helping devatas destroy demons. So it is the will of the Lord which determines where he will appear and when he will appear, not simply the request of a person. However, the Lord is controlled by bhakti. So if the devatas have bhakti, fine, then the Lord will agree to appear before them. Or if there's devotees in the material world, then the Lord will become attracted to them. So yes, it is the will of the Supreme Lord or his mercy, but his mercy is attracted by bhakti in the material world. So if anyone has bhakti, then this is a good reason for bhakti to appear. So, therefore, bhakti is independent of everything in the material world. It's ultimately the will of Krishna. But if a person has some little a devotion to the Lord, and then that bhakti will be attracted, will come. So, in the material world, we have persons who have bhakti in varying degrees. Some are called kanishtas, some are called madhyamas, some are called uttamas. So those that are called kanishtas, you could say that the strength of the bhakti is not manifested very strongly. It's like 1 volt maybe, or what, like that. And if we have prema, an uttamadikari in bhava or prema, then we'll get, 1,000 volts or 2,000 volts or something manifesting. Yeah? And then we have the madhyamas in between that. Maybe a few hundred volts, 210 volts or whatever, kind of ordinary. So we got various degrees of bhakti manifesting in various persons according to their level of advancement. Nevertheless, it is bhakti in all persons, and bhakti is non-different from the Lord. So even if it's kanishta, that person, if he has some bhakti, is very special. And he's completely distinct from jnanis and karmis and yogis and anybody else in the material world. He's in a very special position because they don't have bhakti. But even the kanishta has that bhakti, the seed of bhakti, which is developed to some degree. So even the kanishta is very special. So, however, we know that the kanishta generally has weak bhakti, and also it's unsteady, appears and disappears. The madhyama, on the other hand, that bhakti is steady. That person has an understanding of the process of bhakti. He has knowledge. He associates with devotees. He avoids the non-devotees and the asuras, demons. He preaches to the innocent people. He accepts the Supreme Lord and cultivates a relationship. So, he understands the process of bhakti properly. He has knowledge, proper knowledge, to perform bhakti properly through the devotees, and he practices properly. So this is madhyama, which is a very broad stage. And therefore, bhakti becomes steady. So it is this madhyam adhikari, or the madhyam devotee, who becomes the main distributor of the Lord's bhakti in the material world. He has bhakti. He can distribute bhakti. The kanishta doesn't appreciate devotees, and he just accepts the Supreme Lord. So he has no impetus to preach also because of that. The madhyama person has an understanding of the Supreme Lord and the process of bhakti and the process of the importance of association with other devotees, etc. And he's eager to spread mercy. So he is the one that becomes the instrument of spreading bhakti in the material world. He becomes the preacher. He becomes the teacher of bhakti. So, he is not pure, madhyama. Nevertheless, the Lord chooses this person as his medium in the material world. This doesn't mean that the uttamadikari also isn't a medium. Definitely he is. But there's a problem with the uttamadikari, because generally he doesn't preach. And why he doesn't preach? Because he doesn't see any necessity of preaching. Because everybody is related to Krishna anyway. Everything is Krishna. He sees the material world as a reflection of Krishna, and everything is related to Krishna, and even the demons are related to Krishna. Everything is fine. So he sees everything in terms of Krishna, so he has no need to preach. He sees no duality in the material world. And of course, because he's so involved with Krishna in his realization of Krishna, then he's excluded material world. So therefore, he's not the one that's going to go out and start looking at people and seeing if they're favorable or unfavorable or whatever, and start preaching to them and trying to convince them or anything. He was not the one to do that. So therefore, to have such a person is very rare in the first place, and secondly, that he would be a preacher also is very rare. We do have examples like Narada Muni, who's also Shaktavash Avatar. Of course, because he's Shaktavash Avatar, he's on the highest level, and he also preaches, but he's a very special example. So, Therefore, it is the Madhyamadikari who is the preacher, but he's not 100% pure. It's only Madhyamadikari from somewhere on Nartana British Srivastya Sakti and at the Baba. That's the Madhyamadikari, basically. So he is the one who gives out the mercy of the Lord. We can say, well, it's not the greatest mercy, only the Prem Bhakta has the greatest mercy. Yes, that's true, but highest mercy, but this is the common giver of mercy in the material world. The Madhyamadikari is common compared to the Prem Bhakta, or the Madhyamadikari. Even a Bhava Bhakta is very rare to speak of a Prem Bhakta. And then the other point, of course, is that the Prem Bhakta and Bhava Bhakta generally don't preach anyway. They just exclude themselves from the material world. And you can't find them anywhere. So, the Madhyamadikari, on the other hand, is very visible and quite common. So this person becomes the medium of spreading bhakti in the material world. They become the medium of the Lord's mercy. So, as I said, it's not 100% strong because they're Madhyamas. So the bhakti is not complete. They still have material elements in their minds, etc. But the Lord is merciful, and He allows the Madhyamas to spread His bhakti. So the bhakti itself is not impure. Just like the name also is pure in any case. Even if a person is chanting Nama Bas, it's not that the name has become impure. It's the person's impurity, that's all. Just like the sun is in the sky, and sometimes we have clouds. We don't blame the sun because of the clouds. The sun is still 100% shining. And if you go up in an airplane, yeah, the same intensity of light is there above the clouds. But we, of course, over on Earth, there's clouds in between, and we say, oh, the sun's not shining brightly enough. It's not the sun's fault. It's continually shining at the same intensity, but the clouds are in the way. So similarly, we have Nama Bas. The name is all powerful. So it doesn't somehow decrease its power, but because of our obstacles in terms of our mind and impurities, etc., then the intensity of the name becomes weaker. So the same with the bhakti. The bhakti itself is not, there's no problem with the bhakti in the Madhyamadikari. Bhakti is always bhakti. It's transcendental like the Lord. But we do have coverings so that we don't appreciate it fully. That's all. So there is bhakti there, and it's never impure. It's not different from the Lord. The Lord is never contaminated by material nature. But, of course, we'll see that bhakti is also in varying degrees in different persons. So the Kanishta has very little bhakti, the Madhyam has more bhakti, and the Uttam has most bhakti, manifest, strongest. But it is sufficient in the Madhyamadikari that he can distribute it, and the Lord supplies. So, the devotee becomes the medium of the Lord's bhakti. So we should not think that the devotee is creating bhakti or anything like that, or that he is the power. No, it's Krishna's power manifesting through the devotee. That's all. And the Lord can do what He wants with that. He can manifest in different persons in different degrees. And therefore we'll find, for instance, in our parampara, whether we take a Diksha parampara or a Siksha parampara, that we get many people in the parampara, and historically, some of them we don't know about, and then suddenly we get a great personality, and then suddenly we don't hear about it, and then we get another great personality later on. So it's up to the individual and the Lord's mercy when we're going to have great manifestations of bhakti. And we cannot say that everybody must be a prem bhakti in the parampara. Not necessary. Whether it's Shiksha or Diksha or whatever. For instance, Bhaktivinoda had a Diksha guru who was Bihari Goswami, Kasa Goswami. So we don't reject him. At the same time, we don't say he was an Uttamadikari or whatever. Nevertheless, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a great devotee. How did that happen? Of course, we can say Shiksha. Okay, he had association with Jagannath Das Babaji. But even before he met him, then he had great power also. Where did it come from? From Bihari? Not necessarily, because he was a Kasa Goswami only. So, the bhakti will manifest, and we can't predict when it's going to manifest. It's up to Krishna and that devotee, basically. You get the seed, you develop it, Krishna's mercy is there, association, so many elements are there, and it develops in various ways. So, the devotee is given independence by the Supreme Lord to choose how to manifest and when to distribute the bhakti to which person. The Lord doesn't say, okay, we're not going to give to this person, withdraw here, we're not going to give to that person. No. Leaves it up to the devotee. And when the devotee chooses, he can say, okay, I'll choose this person, I'll give some mercy here, I'll give mercy there. And so he leaves it up to the devotee. So that is why the devotee is emphasized in bhakti. The cause of bhakti is said to be the devotee, because the devotee decides who he's going to teach, instruct, and give mercy to. Of course, ultimately Krishna is behind that, but Krishna gives power to the devotee and decision to independently choose. And the Lord does not interfere with that. So therefore, ultimately, we have to understand that it's coming from Krishna. Bhakti is coming from Krishna. It is spiritual, it's not material, it's nirguna, beyond the gunas. It will come into one person, and that person can choose who to give it to. So therefore, he is the cause of bhakti in one sense, because he chooses, I'll choose this person, not that person. Now, of course, we say that what the guru is like the rain cloud, spreads mercy everywhere. So it's not that he purposely refuses, but at the same time, he's a madhyamadikari, so therefore we have the dictum, don't preach to the faithless people, and don't preach to the demons, etc., avoid the demons. So basically follows that rule. So he doesn't preach to certain persons, and those he finds favorable, he will preach to those persons there. But he's very liberal in giving out mercy when there's qualified persons. So bhakti is independent in the sense that it's coming from Krishna, and the devotee takes that and distributes it as he sees fit, not according to caste or ashram or anything like that, not according to country or whatever. He can do whatever he wants. And Krishna doesn't interfere with that. It's independent another way, bhakti, that is that it doesn't depend on other processes like karma, jnana, or yoga. They may be practiced along with bhakti without interference. They may be practiced and cause interference to make mixed bhakti, which is not good. Or bhakti may be practiced independent of these processes, without these processes, and still be successful. So it doesn't depend on other processes. It does not depend on karma yoga or varnashram. So we don't have to do varnashram before we do bhakti. So the evidence of that is that even if there's no varnashram, when we have lectures and chandalas, they can take the bhakti. There's no varnashram, they take the bhakti. In the whole Western world, there's no varnashram, they take the bhakti. So without any qualification of varnashram, they take the bhakti. So it doesn't depend on varnashram system or karma yoga. In jnana, there is some dependence on karma. They say that first you go through karma yoga and purify yourself. Fulfill your desires according to rules and regulations, and sacrifices and whatever you do, and studying the Vedas and all this. When you become purified, and then you get fed up with all these material enjoyments you get from punyas, then you take to jnana. So you can only be qualified for jnana by previously doing karma yoga. Not so. It does not require qualifications of previous karma yoga or whatever. So even the most sinful person can begin the process of bhakti. Even the person excluded from the varnashram system can practice bhakti. The person with no knowledge can practice. So it's completely independent of all of the processes. And the result comes without these other processes. In fact, the other processes interfere with the result, and then we have mixed bhakti. We mix a lot of karma yoga with bhakti, it can become karma mixed with Mr. Bhakti. The elements are there, and they can begin to affect our goal, weaken the goal, because we also have material goals involved with it. It becomes At the same time, we can mix the elements without the desires, and that's permissible. So you can do some of the, follow the rules and regulations of our ashram system, simultaneously practice bhakti as long as it's not contrary to bhakti, and don't have any material desires along with that. And then, okay, you can do that. So we can take favorable elements from karma yoga or jnana yoga or even ashtanga yoga, favorable elements, and use those along with the bhakti. No problem, as long as we don't have those desires for material desires, liberation, or cities, or anything else involved. So, we have karma yoga. If there's no worship of the Lord at all, it is useless. You don't even get svargaloka. You have a little bit of bhakti in the form of recognizing Vishnu as supreme and David as the service, but basically you're doing all the other worship also. You also worship the Supreme Lord. Then you can get the svargaloka. So this means that karma yoga is dependent on bhakti yoga, ultimately. There's a small amount of bhakti, at least recognition of the Lord is there. So you can get svargaloka. Jnana yoga, without recognition of the Lord, will not give liberation. If they recognize the Lord, that amount of bhakti is there, and worship a little bit, then they can get liberation. So jnana is also dependent upon bhakti to get the result, liberation, which they desire. So other processes are dependent on bhakti. Bhakti is independent. Bhakti yoga can give you svargaloka if you want it. It can give you liberation if you want it. It also gives you spiritual world and spiritual body and prema. So it gives everything. Without having to practice karma yoga, you can get svargaloka also. Without practicing jnana yoga along with bhakti yoga, you can get liberation. And you get liberation if you go to the spiritual world, obviously liberated, no more birth and death. In fact, if you go to the spiritual world, you get more than svargaloka. Since the planet's svargaloka is temporary. Spiritual world is permanent. But you get more wealth, you get more enjoyment, in that sense, in the spiritual world than in the material world, anywhere, even in Brahmaloka. So whatever results you get from svargaloka or liberation, you also get from bhakti, but you get in a higher form. Of course, we can also have different mixtures here. For instance, we can take the bottom one there, and we can increase the pink section of bhakti more and 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 more. And we can decrease the karma yoga section until we get over half bhakti. So you're doing more bhakti and less karma. Then we can call it bhakti yoga. It's not karma yoga anymore, it's bhakti yoga when there's more pink and less blue. But it's called mixed bhakti. It's not called pure bhakti because of this mixture of elements. Now I've said it could be either good or bad. If we mix the desire is also there for material enjoyment, that karma mixed bhakti is not good. If we just do the angas of that karma yoga, but we don't have any material desires attached to it, we do it because they're favorable to our development of bhakti system. Follow varnashram system, that's brahmacharya, for instance. Okay, that's favorable. So that element of varnashram is okay. So mixed bhakti is not necessarily bad as long as you don't have the desires mixed in, material desires or desires for liberation. If you take the angas and mix it in, fine. Even though it's a mixture, you can still get the highest result as long as there's no attachment to those particular angas of karma yoga or jnana yoga. Okay. Okay. Anyway, the highest position is this. Bhakti with no other desires and with no other angas. That's the purest form of all. So bhakti is independent also of purity or impurity. In other systems you need purity. Even in karma yoga you need purity. So if you do a sacrifice, then you have to wash yourself, you have to have clean utensils, clean ingredients, so much time has to be proper, etc. there's an aspect of purity. Qualified persons by birth have to do the yajna, etc. If you do jnana, again, purity is necessary. Only a Sattva Brahmana is qualified to do it. And then you can only study at certain times, which are pure. He has to be in a pure condition. Study place has to be good, or whatever. Like this. Same with the yogi. He has to sit in the asana in a certain place, in a forest, in a pure place, etc., and all this sort of thing. So there's all sorts of physical and mental considerations to do other processes. Not so with bhakti. Pure or impure. It can be practiced in some form or other. Of course, we do have limitations in deity worship, which is part of bhakti yoga. Then there is some conditions of purity and purity. In chanting the holy name, there isn't. So if you're impure, you can chant the name and it has effect. If you're pure, it has effect. Either way. So bhakti is a much more flexible process. And we see that even the most simple person can chant and get effect. And even if he doesn't have faith, as in the case of Ajamil, it gets resolved. Ajamil chanted the name of Narayan accidentally, and he was sinful, and he destroyed all his karmas. So even accidental bhakti has great effect. For most sinful people, even. So therefore, we should not think that bhakti is restricted and that only sinless people practice. No, the sinful people also can take to it and get good results. Of course, then we do have some restrictions on that because we have aparads. You also cannot think aparad at the same time. So if you are very sinful and you practice bhakti and then you commit the aparad, committing sin and strength of holy name, that becomes aparad and then no effect. Okay, so you have to be careful how the sinful people practice also. So whether you're disturbed or undisturbed you practice. You cannot do that in jnana and yoga. If your mind is disturbed, no more meditation, nothing, you can't do it. In bhakti, even if you're disturbed, you can chant Hare Krishna, it's okay. So any place, any time is okay. It's not a problem. That's not so with anything else. The jnana, yoga, and karma all require particular times and particular places. So bhakti is independent of time, place, qualification by varna or ashrama, purity or impurity. Everything is completely independent. Varnas and ashramas are very dependent on conditions. And persons are qualified according to conditions. They're stuck in that certain condition for their life, more or less. So the Sudra is stuck in a Sudra condition, and he has to practice as a Sudra and do certain activities, not do other activities. Brahman is doing his particular activities. He's stuck in those activities also. He cannot descend into the other realms, otherwise he gets contaminated. Okay? So everyone is in the Varnashram system. You're fixed in certain categories of conditions, material conditions. But bhakti is beyond that. It's beyond varnas and ashramas completely. And it's not even dependent on faith. Generally say faith is the beginning of bhakti, but in one sense, accidental bhakti, or bhakti avas or namavas, has effect. It doesn't have the highest effect. You cannot get trained by this, but at least it will have some effect as destroying karmas. So it is said that by chanting once the name of Narayana, when Ajamil named his son Narayana, I will call you Narayana. Narayana is my son's name. Immediately all of his karmas, past, present, and futures were destroyed. So that is the power of bhakti, and particularly the holy name, that even unconsciously applied, it can have great effect. This, of course, destruction of karmas is nothing, in other words, for the process of bhakti. And therefore liberation also is nothing, because if you destroy all his karmas, he's qualified for liberation. He's not qualified for Vaikuntha, however, simply by chanting accidentally. Ajamil went to Vaikuntha only after he practiced bhakti sincerely. He went to Haridwar, met devotees, and he practiced bhakti. Then he was through that. He did not accidental bhakti, but intentional bhakti, pure bhakti. And then he was qualified for Vaikuntha. But even without faith, if bhakti is accidentally performed, then you get some very, very great results. Okay. In this way, Vishwanath Chakravarti has glorified the process of bhakti as being non-different from the Supreme Lord. Whatever power is in the Supreme Lord is also in bhakti. Bhakti comes from the Supreme Lord. It is his Sarup Shakti, and his Sarup Shakti is non-different from himself, Chit Shakti. So the Lord is all-pervading, the Lord is all full of knowledge, the Lord is independent, is self-manifesting. Bhakti is exactly the same. So it is the most powerful process. Yeah. So Bhakti and Krishna are not different. Fine. That's the first section. I think it's Prachadam.